In the shadows of the Zagros Mountains, there was once a king named Zahak. However, he was not a good king. He was an evil, twisted tyrant with 2 serpents that grew out of his shoulders. These 2 black snakes craved only one thing for their sustenance: the brains of the young. Every day, 2 families would lose a child to their monstrous appetite. Mothers wept and fathers resisted in vain, but the king tolerated no refusal. However, one man in the kingdom finally reached his breaking point. Kawa was a blacksmith. Some legends say he had already given 16 of his 17 children to the serpents. When the guards came for his last child, Kawa didn't submit. Instead, he picked up his heavy iron hammer and with his last remaining child, fled to the mountains. But Kawa didn't just save his child. He ignited a spark of resistance. As he fled to the mountains, he gathered a secret army. Then, on the last night of winter, they gathered their strength and advanced on Zahak's castle. Kawa led the march. He stormed the palace, his righteous fury and great blacksmith strength, causing all to flee before him. At last, with one massive swing, he brought his hammer down and finished the Serpent King forever. To tell his people they were finally free, Kawa climbed the highest nearby peak and lit a massive bonfire. One by one, fires began to twinkle on every mountain across the horizon. Light had finally chased away the dark. They called it Newroz, a new day.
Welcome to Reşmall, the Kurdish Culture Podcast. Our goal in this podcast is to explore, understand, and share Kurdish culture for the benefit of Kurds and non-Kurds alike. In each episode, we focus on a different aspect of Kurdish culture and how it affects everyday life. Like every culture, Kurdish culture is diverse and always changing. Our hope is to explore both the historic traditions and modern variations, highlighting the opportunities and acknowledging the challenges. With deep respect and admiration, we invite others to join us as we continue to learn more. So, come on into the Reşmall, the black tent where countless generations of Kurds have lived. Let us serve you a hot cup of Kurdish chai, and we hope you enjoy the conversation.
Okay, welcome to this 4th episode of Reşmall, the Kurdish Culture Podcast. And we are examining one of the pinnacles of Kurdish culture today, the day of the year that is celebrated by Kurds the world over as we remember the story that we heard in the opening. Okay, with us today, though, something new for this episode is we have a guest. We have Arazu Khan, who has joined us and is going to share with us a bit about the history of Newroz and some more details that would be helpful for us to know as we seek to understand better this very important aspect of Kurdish culture. Now, I met Arazu, I think I've seen you in universities. I've seen you at the Kawa Culture Center. I have seen you also leading excursions into the mountains. I'm guessing you've never seen anyone with 2 snakes coming out of their shoulders, but maybe you will enlighten us. So, Arazu, why don't you tell us who you are, where you're from, and what brings you to the podcast today?
Hello again, everyone. Arazu Barwari here. I'm so happy to be here. Thanks for having me. It's an honor. I'm a mixed Kurdish from southern Kurdistan. My father is from Suleymaniye and my mother is from north of Iran. So I have some multicultural background and happily experienced Newroz in different cultures. My first introduction to Newroz was, of course, from Iran because I was born and raised there. And it is like celebrated way different from Newroz in southern Kurdistan in Iraq. Newroz for us was full of joy. Before we started the school, it was like the good news of we're not going to be in the school for 13 days. I carry a lot of good memories, and then all these experiences and the events, they become part of my current job now. It's very interesting because it makes you think deeper about where you came from and what you have experienced. And then the terminology is the same word, but it's been celebrated differently in different areas. But the main concept is the same. So to go back to the word Newroz, no or new or nev in Kurdish and Persian terminology means new, which is like very similar to English too. So new. Roz is like the day. Sometimes it refers to the sun. So day and sun, they are very connected to each other. When there's sun, Roz starts, like the day starts. New day, every day is a new day. But this certain new day, it refers to the seasonal change as well. So Newroz itself is very tied with Kawa and the Zahak, as you mentioned. And it's similar in Kurdish and Persian mythology. Kurds claim that Kawa was Kurdish. Persians, they claim he was Persian. They say one of the oldest documentation of Newroz, it's mentioned in Shahnameh. Shahnameh is from Ferdowsi, the great Persian poet. He collected a lot of Persian mythologies in the form of poetry. So Newroz is also mentioned there based on my knowledge. So that's something that was acknowledged in that book, the early Islamic time in Iran.
Yeah, I believe as a Kurd that Newroz is belonging to the Kurdish nation. We are maybe the only nation that celebrate Newroz as we did in the era of Kawa the Blacksmith. And by the way, the name Kawa is still one of the most common male names among the Kurds, and Newroz as well.
Yeah, Mamosta, Andy, anything that you'd want to add?
Well, what's clear is that the Persian Empire spread Newroz all the way across the Middle East and Central Asia. And we even had one participant on our call say that she knew of some Greeks who celebrate Newroz, some tribes in Greece. It's clear that Newroz spread geographically because of the amazing cultural impact the Medo-Persian Empire had under rulers such as Cyrus the Great. And of course, when you do those early rulers like Cyrus, he not only has a Persian background, but a Mede background as well. And so that's where this possibility opens up. Where is the true root of Newroz? Which one did it come from? But what's clear is that rulers like Cyrus were very effective in spreading that culture all over the region. And I think there is a case to be made that has very ancient Kurdish roots, those Mede roots. But yes, one other just interesting historical fact, Arazu Khan has been discussing the Shahnameh, but the Kurdish authors that we know of, Sharif Khan Bitlisi, he ties the origin of the Kurds. He says, actually, the Kurds come from the children that Kawa saved from Zahak, from this evil tyrant. So it's interesting how Kurds even look to Newroz as, in the Kurdish understanding of where they come from, at least one stream of understanding that is connected to Newroz too, is connected to this holiday.
Yeah. So this story is very, very much linked to their cultural and ethnic identity. Fascinating.
If Newroz is widely being celebrated among all these countries and the nations or cultures that has been celebrated, true that we have some written records of Newroz, but how strong an occasion could be that over thousands of years from one generation to another generation, after different religion spread, still that ancient occasion kept its own way. And we are so happy that at least we have one thing in common among all these neighboring countries that connects us together, regardless of the colors, races, religious backgrounds, and whatever, is the common stuff that people will celebrate together. Again, after the type of Mongols, different religions, different empires and stuff, this is one of the rarest occasions that still is being celebrated, however differently in the mentioned countries. So I call it a magical occasion. When I link Newroz with some other kind of similar occasions in the region of Central Asia and Middle East, there's different occasions that are being celebrated during this time. They have a lot of similarities. And to go back to the ancient time, winter must have been very harsh, cold, snow. And then when the rain started and the nature started to change, itself as a celebration, even not to be from this culture, just randomly to pop into the land in these areas, the joy, the green, the rain, the sun. And how only in 1 or 2 weeks after the rain, at the beginning of April, the world becomes alive again. So the joy itself, the practice of the joy, like people after like during their lifetime, they would be waiting. Okay, there's something coming after this is snow. So they didn't have the facilities that we have nowadays. There wasn't any oil, there wasn't any electricity and stuff. So it was a huge celebration of, oh, the sun is coming. So the growth, the agriculture, the food, the warmth, that's called Newroz, the new day, the new year, the new beginning.
Yeah. Okay. So in thinking about this, I appreciate, Arazu, how you kind of traced out the fact that, hey, through many different dynasties, many different religions, many changes, this celebration has remained. And it would be perhaps helpful for us to think about Nowruz under prohibition. Because Nowruz is such an identity marker, we see that this continues to be a point of contention for those who would claim ownership or rule of the land where people are seeking to celebrate. Andrew, maybe you can speak a bit to that.
Well, yeah, this was something that was new for me, was learning recently how much Nowruz was banned or suppressed under previous political regimes. So it really, in all four different sort of central regimes which have exerted political or tried to exert political control over Kurdistan, it has been either outright banned or limited. So in Turkey, in Syria, in Iraq, under previous regimes, it was illegal. And even in Iran, where it stayed legal, there were limitations, for example, on certain aspects of Kurds going out and picnicking together. There may have been governments sort of not allowing that. And that was because the Kurdish identity has been so tied to this. So that was something new. I'd love to hear what was to say.
Yeah, that's reality that Nowruz is not only a celebration for having or coming a new season, a new spring. For us, it's deeply tied with our political, let's say, rights. And if we come back for the last century, you can see that Nowruz was banned from nation states around us, Turkey, Iraq, Syria, and Iran. Let's take a look in northern Kurdistan, in Bakur, let's say the Turkish Kurdistan. So the suppression was most acute. I mean, when you compare to the other parts of Kurdistan, Nowruz was actively prohibited. That's why when talk about Nowruz is not only a celebration to go out to outside of the cities, having a picnic or eating foods or dancing, singing. It's more than that, because it's profoundly tied with our political rights. That's why, say, for example, just take a look in our massive gathering in Ahmed in Diyarbakir, and even this year, the same thing happened in Istanbul. Almost 1 million people are gathering, as we did in Ahmed in Diyarbakir. It's a way we can breathe freedom in Nowruz, and that's why our people are eager, just to get Nowruz and show and keep their identity.
Hey, Sarhad, while you're talking about the celebration, and you mentioned Ahmed and other areas, but can you, for those who have never seen a Nowruz celebration, can you just give us a picture of what that looks like? You mentioned specifically that every year the Kurds still light the fires on the mountains. So can you help me think? In our intro story, we heard how the fire was lit as a rallying cry for the people, which very much tracks with the political resistance that you're talking about. But as we think about images that you might see of torches being carried up a mountain, people jumping over a fire, what's going on with all this fire?
That's a good question, Mausa Stephen. Fire is the heart of Kurdish Newroz, in Kurdish culture, because it's not just a physical element. It also carries deep historical, political, even it has a psychological meaning. So it has different meanings from fire. The first one, we can say that fire is a symbol of resistance and freedom. After Kawa revolted against the tyrant king, Zahak, and after defeating Zahak, he lit a fire on the top of a mountain. This fire from that time symbolized freedom, victory, and the end of oppression. Keep the same ritual from the era of Kawa the Blacksmith till nowadays. And that's why in Bashur, in southern Kurdistan, we have a town called Akre. Akre is famous for being the capital of Newroz. Hundreds of people carry the torches steep to the mountainside. So they are creating a very unforgettable views, such as, creating a spectacular snake of fire that can be seen for miles, outside of Akre. So, as we know, after defeating the Zahak, Kawa the Blacksmith lit the fire on the top of the mountains as a signal to let the people below that they are finally were free from the oppression, and the kingdom of Zahak is gone. Another meaning of fire is overcome of light over darkness. In some places, people jump to the fire, but I haven't seen in southern Kurdistan. But as I said, in some ways, they believe that Nowruz is a day to overcome light over darkness, because Nowruz occurs during the spring equinox, when day and night are equal. We believe that in Nowruz, the heat overcomes the cold, and we have some idioms and proverbs that talks about this war between winter and spring. Yeah, the other thing, Imam Musa, Stephen, as you said, the other meaning of fire is cleansing and renewal in ancient times, because in our tradition of some parts of Kurdistan, people jump over the fire, as a symbol of cleansing and starting a new life. It's more symbolic and psychological. It's just like a mental reset. It's just like to say, okay, I release what harmed me and I start again. So that's one of the tradition that we can see from the social medias nowadays. But as I said, Kurdistan is a large country. It's not a small area that you can see, those traditions from every single kind of celebration from the Kurdistan. The other thing is fire has a social and political meaning, because when you see the fire, our people, gathering around the fire, and it's a symbol of Kurdish unity, I think. When you see, a bonfire and a lot of people are around the fire, it means it's a kind of message that we are in unity. It has a lot of meanings behind this symbol of Nowruz.
Sure.
I have to say that when I say fire is the heart of Nowruz, I'm not talking about that, we are worshipping fire. Someone says, just to be against this Kurdish celebration. It's not about worshipping. It's a kind of sacredness, but not from our religion.
Well, and I appreciate, Sarhad, so much of what you shared there, and thinking through, you're talking about kind of more of a psychological perspective that maybe modern Kurds are thinking through the tradition with, but it is an interesting image of baptism through fire and the new day, the new fire coming. So, Arazu, anything to add to what's been said about that?
We start from the original question about the prohibiting Nowruz, but everywhere has its own conflict, even inside the family. So we are not talking about a world free of any kind of conflict. It's a human being. Conflicts exist, but what is important is like the ways to reduce the conflicts and make more peacemaking solutions for people to have a better life, in a simple way, I can say. But why some certain governments are afraid of this? If you prohibit something, it must be something like harms you or you're afraid of it. I would openly say Turkification and Arabization. It happened after all the political borders happened, drawn by Britain and France, or after the World War and the Allies. Everything got kind of, the portion of the countries, it got divided in kind of an accurate way that culturally it was closed. The only people that they didn't get it was a big number of people, Kurds. We are not going back to that, but these people, why are they dangerous for the other 4 countries? Why are they always oppressed? Why are they trying to cleanse it? The magic of Nowruz, it can never disappear because the roots are very deep. You cannot really humiliate yourself publicly, globally, by claiming it, because you just make a fool out of yourself in the eye of public. And why is it so dangerous though? Why would they be afraid of this? Because the idea of Nowruz is the celebration of bad guys being killed by the good guys. So Kawa represents the folk, like the people that they seek for the justice. And there's always tyranny that is going to be killed by Kawa. Another thing is every year, Nowruz is a reminder, is an awakening reminder of people that they are suffering. They are suffering from so many things, injustice. We have different groups of communities in a country. Even a one certain community, it's still it has its subdivision and stuff. I'm telling you, we are not dreaming of a perfect world, but we are dreaming and hoping for a world with the less conflict for the people, based on the justice and awareness, to be away from ignorance, to be away from the fear, and make the world a better place. It would be possible by communities. Who is the community? The communities that they have common things, common values, common occasions and stuff, and then they gather together. Nowruz is a gathering. I cannot celebrate Nowruz on my own. It would be so silly. What is the point for me to walk with the fire at home? I myself, I would feel so silly. What am I doing? So some stuff is with the community. What is community? In Kurdistan, it's been celebrated for 3 days. And impossible without the Kurdish dance. In Akre, you said that, can you give us an image? I can give you an example. In each city, even in southern Kurdistan, in Bashur, which is like in northern Iraq, each city has its own way, but no, there is no city with no fire. Because that fire brings a lot of joy, right? Is it only one fire? No, it would be ugly. So everyone collects to make like a bigger, a greater fire. So everyone is bringing it and piling it. And then there's like a big, bright thing around the end of the sunset. So the fire, the brightness of the fire breaks through the darkness. So there's a lot of different meaning and depends on people's understanding, but there is meaning for that. So Nowruz could be dangerous for some countries. There has been dark history that they try to brainwash people by creating some news stories and stuff. But again, the fire itself is a proof of, okay, you cannot really fight against me because I'm brighter than darkness. So darkness cannot really win over me.
I just want to add something to Mawasa Arazu based on what she said. As long as Newroz and fire remains, the Kurdish people will remain. We are a witness that Newroz and fire had not died, for thousands of years. So we have a great and a huge hope that our people will still resist and will still remain. So that's why we believe that as long as Newroz remains, that our nation will remain and will resist. So that's why we are really happy and we are really eager to waiting for every, Newroz just to show our identity to the occupier governments.
A couple of sort of summarizing thoughts about what's been said about specifically about fire and about Kurdishness, Nowroz being so central to Kurdishness. I think it is remarkable that Nowroz is such an ancient festival. I think it's one of the holidays that we have that's so widely practiced. I think it's not a mistake that it's the fire. Fire is the one symbol that has survived all of these thousands of years. There are some other smaller symbols of Nowroz, maybe in different regions, but the one common symbol that is universal among everyone who practices Nowroz is fire. And I don't think that's a mistake. I think that fire as the central sort of symbolic meaning of, Nowroz, the light overcoming the darkness. It makes a lot of sense that would be the symbol that would survive, that provides a place for people to gather around. It symbolizes, sort of good news, resistance, light over darkness. So just packed with meaning there. And as we were speaking, I was thinking about even the Kurdish flag, thinking about how tightly woven Nowroz is with Kurdish identity, and even remembering that there's on the sun on the Kurdish flag, there's 21 points. What do those 21 points represent? They represent March 21st. They represent Nowroz. So this is a part of Kurdish culture that is so central to Kurdish identity and history that they would even want that symbolism worked into the flag itself.
Right. So good. Well, as we think then about how people celebrate Nowroz today, we've already talked about various aspects of fire, of gathering, picnicking. We even heard about some dancing and fire jumping. Yeah, what else needs to be in our mind when we think about, if I were to show up to a Kurdish Nowroz celebration today, what might I expect to see there?
Besides getting out into the nature and celebrating outside of the cities, especially, you can go to the mountains, fields, and open spaces. The other thing is, as I said, you have to light a fire, or the most important thing in Newroz is wearing the traditional Kurdish clothing. Especially the women they have a very colorful and beautifully designed clothes. It's really important, to wear, because it's a great sign that we still exist. And look at that, our Kurdish clothes are, our identity. That's why when we see, a foreign in Erbil, in Kurdistan, that they wear traditional Kurdish outfit, we will be very, very happy to see them in those outfits. The other thing is, celebrating Newroz is not done by one person. It's not, an individual celebration. It should be done by the groups. So that's why, you can see family members, the friends are doing at the same time. It's not something done by one person. Because, as I said, it has a really deep meaning. We are one nation, and we are still have a slogan. We say 2 + 2 = 1. That's why, we have to gather together just to make one message.
Hey, I don't know if this will make it in the episode, but we've talked enough about the 4 parts of Kurdistan in this episode, and I'm just imagining we've kind of walked through the map. But can you guys just quickly talk about the 4 parts of Kurdistan?
4 main parts of Kurdistan would be the north, south, east, and west. North, or Bakur, that's the part of Kurdistan that is now a part of the country of Turkey. That's the largest segment. And then East Kurdistan, Rojalat, is a part of Kurdistan that's currently part of the nation of Iran. And then South Kurdistan, Bashur, is the part of Kurdistan that is part of modern state of Iraq.
The 3rd largest area.
That's right, yeah. So I've been going from largest to smallest. And so the smallest one is Rojava, or West Kurdistan, in contemporary Syria. So the northeastern part of contemporary Syria. You have small pockets of Kurds in other countries as well, smaller pockets, other groups like the Khorasani Kurds over in northeastern Iran. But yes, those are the 4 main parts that when we speak of the 4 parts of Kurdistan, that's what we're referring to.
So north, south, east, and west. That was Bakur, Bashur, Rojalat, and Rojava. That might be helpful to just have something to orient people as we think through that. So then as we think about the fact that Kurds are not necessarily in one of those 4 parts of Kurdistan, but they might be a part of the Kurdish diaspora around the world.
Yeah, I have some experience with the way Newroz is celebrated in the diaspora in the United States, and what that has looked like in parts of the country such as Kentucky or Indiana or Tennessee. It often means members of the Kurdish community will gather at a city park, a large park in the city, or maybe a beautiful park outside the city. People will, of course, wear Kurdish clothes, bring Kurdish flags, and it's always very important to grill meat, to have Kurdish music playing, opportunities for Kurdish line dancing, and of course, fire. You have to have the fire. And those are sweet occasions where Kurds who live in the U.S. are able to come together and invite in other friends who are not Kurds as well, and to remember Kurdistan and to celebrate and encourage one another on this important day. You know, Kurdishness and Newroz is not confined to existing international borders.
We don't have our borders, the line drawn on the diplomatic borders, the political one. We have our own identity. Kurds have kind of a belief, it has its own holiness. If people come and add something extra to that, for example, in Akre, the way outsiders saw this one, Arazu as company owner, the tourism company owner, I would say, people like me, we promote Newroz and the other cultural occasions through tourism. However, it's considered to be business, but who is the business owner? A Kurdish person who is trying to promote another part of the self to the world, to bring them in. Maybe the money is just a little part of it, but what matters is like, hey, I exist.
Well, thank you, Mamosta Arazu, for helping us to explore this important aspect of Kurdish culture. I have loved getting the opportunity to reflect on the image of people being gathered around a fire that makes sure that darkness can't overcome the light. What a powerful image to carry down, and indeed it has been carried down. You talked about the new generation continuing to carry that light, and the fact that has been carried down through thousands of years, and no one has seemed to overcome it. What a joy to think about the ways that this continues to be an occasion for music, for dancing, for shared meal, and community to continue to flourish.
Yes, thank you so much for joining us, Mamosta Arazu. If any of our listeners would like to follow Arazu's work, you can find her at Kurdistan Outdoor on the different social media platforms. Check out the different tours and hikes that they do. It's really some great, fascinating work. We do have one quick Kurdish proverb related to Newroz that Mamosta Sarhad found for us. Mamosta, would you share that with us?
We have so much Kurdish proverbs, including overcoming spring against the winter and many other things, especially Newroz. I mean, a lot of Kurdish writers and poems have mentioned the Kurdishness of Newroz, but I found Kurdish proverb that it says, after each winter, a spring comes. A very hopeful proverb about changing the circumstances. That's why we will not losing our hope.
Okay, Sarhad, can I hear that proverb to close us out in your native tongue?
Okay. Duai har zistanek baharik dit.
All right. After winter, spring comes and we celebrate Newroz. Thank you all.
Yeah, and thank you so much. Thanks for everyone.
Thanks for listening to Reşmall, the Kurdish Culture Podcast. If you found this episode helpful, we'd love it if you'd share it with others. Subscribe for even more content exploring Kurdish culture.